So you've thought about making your own dog food. 2 years ago, I made a batch of homemade dog food as an educational experience. And ever since that first batch, I've been making their dog food. It's turned into a labor of love. Initially, I was simply curious as to how much food, I mean real food, not kibble, my dogs needed to eat on a daily, weekly basis. Please do your own research on your specific dog's dietary needs. I'm not a veterinarian or a certified dog nutritionist, nor do I play one on TV. I'm just a strange guy who makes his own dog food. My dogs seem to thrive on the diet. They're 9, 15, and 16 years young and have eaten my cooking every day for the last 2 years. So what's in the food? Based on my experience and what I've read, dogs can eat pretty much anything, from dead decaying rodents to cheeseburgers and fries, and even raw green beans. They are clearly not fragile creatures with peanut and gluten allergies. According to the American Kennel Club, research has proven, and your veterinarian will tell you, that a healthy, well-balanced diet for your dog must include whole food ingredients that provide the following: protein, fats, and fatty acids, carbohydrates, fiber, vitamins, minerals, and water. Or I'll paraphrase, they pretty much eat the same things as us. Although meat and protein need to play a larger role in their diet, also note they have shorter digestive systems and their mouths are not good at grinding down food, so they're not going to handle fiber as well as us two-leggers. That's why you'll see I cook their fruits and veggies well to break down the fiber. Here are a couple of things I've been told to avoid: onions, garlic, tomatoes, grapes, chocolate, and watch the amount of salt and other spices. They don't require as much as us humans. But beyond this, the basis of my dog food is meat, always some bone broth for cooking it down, and leftovers. So I make my dog food once a week, or the same day that I'm going to go grocery shopping. So I clean out the fridge and gather up all the produce that's aging to ensure none of it goes bad and wasted, and it all goes into the dog food. So when I head to the store, I have a relatively empty fridge and a relatively empty fruit basket. Another major ingredient is the mason jars you see of leftovers. This ranges from the stuff left on plates at the end of a meal, leftover chicken soup, leftover beans and rice here, and some flour. Plus other stuff left at the bottom of my mixing bowl when I made some biscuits the other night. I collect these leftovers throughout the week and I throw them into the freezer. Put them all out the night before so they thaw a bit, and that's what I'm going to make the dog food from. Additional leftovers are this bowl of lettuce for some salad that we did not eat, a handful of potatoes that we did not consume this week, a biscuit, and some tortillas. I love stale bread as it thickens up the dog food into that gravy-like consistency. Here's some broccoli we didn't eat, and a bag of baby carrots. Everything my dogs need to get a good variety of nutrients. I always have some broth. I won't go too deep into making broth, but essentially I save all the bones, chicken, turkey, pork ribs, T-bones, you name it, into a gallon freezer bag. When I fill it up, or one or two of them, I make broth. Sometimes the broth I make is for humans, which I make a little bit differently than what I'm showing you now, as I add onions and garlic and some other aromatics for the human broth. But for dog broth, as I refer to it, it's just the bones, the water, and that's it. Boil them in the strainer pot for a couple of hours, remove, put it into a quart mason jars, and run them through the canner. You'll see I like my canner, one of the better skills I've developed. This allows me to preserve the broth and the dog food in such a manner that it doesn't take up valuable freezer or fridge space. This broth serves as the liquid used to break down the fibers and the veggies and such, and it's nutritious, and the dogs say everything cooked in bone broth is delicious. So the next essential is the meat. Here's a 10-pound bag of chicken breasts. I buy 40-pound cases at my local independent grocer. This thing on the chopping board is a cow tongue, I purchased my beef by the half cow, and included with that half cow are the organs and the other parts of the cow that we don't typically eat, and I'm not going to start eating it. However, my dogs think this is some gourmet cooking. Again, an example of utilizing what could or would have been waste. You can also save those chicken giblets, kidneys, and gizzards, all that great stuff that I used to throw away, and the dogs love it all. Good thing my wife warned me that tongue is very tough, so I threw it in the slow cooker overnight. So I'm going to start this batch of dog food by pouring in the quart of broth. Then I'm chopping up the cow tongue into 1 and 2 inch chunks, and I throw them into the pot to cook down further and release that yummy cow tongue juice. Doesn't it look delicious already? In general, I add items to the pot based on what needs to cook the longest. So next are the hard veggies, starting with potatoes. I don't peel them, just rinse and chop. Next, a bag of baby carrots. It's a shame we didn't eat them, but when you make dog food weekly, nothing in my house ever goes bad, and it just goes into the dog food. I'll replace the bag of carrots later today, and no worries if we eat them or not this week. If we do, great. If we don't, they'll be in next week's dog food. Now we've got some delicious looking cow tongue, carrot, and potato stew cooking. It's funny how my family will often walk in while I'm making dog food and tell me how good it smells and ask me what I'm cooking for dinner. Now let's get to the broccoli in there. If it's good for us, it must be good for them. I do chop off the florets from the stem, and I'll throw the stem in the compost pile. My dogs only get the finest. Yummy looking here. Now I'm going to add a quart of leftover chicken soup. Once I start adding starches, noodles in this case, or rice, we really need to watch the temperature and keep stirring so it doesn't burn to the bottom of the pot. And now for the main event, more meat. 10-pound bag of chicken breast. I read somewhere to watch how much fat is in their food, so chicken breast is a staple in my dog food. I get 40-pound cases, which come in 4 10-pound bags. I find a 10-pound bag, plus this pile of leftovers and other things, and maybe some organs, is generally enough to get through a week. I chop the chicken breast up into 1 2-inch chunks, and again I'm going to let them cook for a while. While this all might seem a bit time consuming, I usually do this while I'm working at the dining room table on my laptop, so I move back and forth from work to tending to my dog food throughout the morning. The table is clearing up. Next I'm going to throw in that bowl of lettuce. Isn't this looking absolutely delicious now? I can assure you it does smell pretty good. Next, that jar of random leftovers from people's plates after dinner. Actually, I'm a member of the Clean Plate Club. Nothing ever is left on my plate. But the kids often leave something behind, and my dogs are thankful that they do. Let's stir this up. Now it's time for the first mashing. I simply use a standard potato masher to crush the food periodically to break it down for easy eating and consistency. Time for the leftover tortillas. I love these huge tortillas as I can put a pile of fillings into my tacos. Downside is they come in 12 packs, so even after eating tacos for 2 or 3 consecutive nights in my house, I always have a few tortillas left over. Hey, one person's loss is the dog's gain. I tear them up into pieces and stir them in. Time to mash it up a bit more. Next I'll add those beans and rice left over from Taco Tuesday. I'm actually a little bit envious of my dog's food as I love black beans and rice. Adding these late as they're already nice and soft and don't need much cooking. Let's stir, mash a little bit more. Buttermilk biscuits, anyone? While I wouldn't recommend feeding the dogs a diet of buttermilk biscuits, one stale one thrown into a large pot helps thicken up the broth into that gravy-like consistency, along with those tortillas. Now to really thicken it up is a jar with some dinner leftovers and some flour from the bottom of a mixing bowl when I made the biscuits earlier this week. I used to never know what to do with that leftover flour at the bottom of the bowl. Now I know exactly what to do with all of my leftovers. This is going to make it real thick and hearty and add some carbs. Dogs burn carbs just like us, but you do want to add them in moderation. Let's stir it all up and give it a final mashing. This stuff smells good, and often I do want to try some. So now I'm going to start portioning it. I use a funnel to fill up these wide mouth 1-quart mason jars. I find 1 quart adequate for my dogs each day, just a little bit for the Shih Tzu and the Chihuahua, and a good pile to my white beast. Folks often ask me, what's his breed? I simply respond that he's a my dog. He's around 40 pounds, medium size, lightning fast, short-haired, white, my dog. I run these through the canner for preservation. This specific batch you saw filled 10 jars, or will feed them for 10 days. My canner will run 7 jars. I'll throw 3 into the fridge and we'll feed those first 3 to them over the next couple of days. The others will go into my rows of food. Typically I make between 7 to 10 per week and slowly build up an inventory, which allows me to take a week off periodically when, life occurs and I don't have the time to make dog food. Truth in advertising, we do keep 1 bowl of kibble. If they do need a little bit more food, my dogs don't overeat, so I can lay out 1 bowl of kibble. I've had the dogs in the past that we needed to ration their food or they would get fat. Fortunately, mine eat on demand okay and moderate. My homemade food probably covers 90% of their calorie needs, as we typically only need to refill their kibble bowl about once per week. While you need to do your own research, try out your own recipes. My dogs love this. And you can see here, this guy looks as healthy as they come after 2 years of chowing on my cooking. This method, while maybe not for everyone, will almost eliminate your home food waste, and you'll know exactly what goes into your dog food, and your dogs will love you, if it was even possible for them to love you anymore.
Thank you. Thank you.